This is part 3 and we're going to be creating the final coat and the finishing touches. So in this video I'm going to be using some locks. These are Valais Blacknose locks, but you can use whatever you have available because the Valais fleeces range from really curly to nice and wavy. I'm also going to be using some black curls that I've made myself, and to make these I just wrap some black merino around some skewers, put them in hot soapy water and just kind of roll them between my hands. Then I take them out and shock them with cold water, then leave them to dry, and it gives some really nice springy curls. So for the lambs I don't actually use any locks at all, I just use the homemade curls to create the entire coat for the lambs. I'm just going to zoom in so you can really see the texture that the homemade curls give off. As you can see, it gives a really nice texture and it gives the appearance of a really short but curly coat. So you can make longer curls if you wish to by felting down one end of the curl and just leaving the other end loose and just layering them up. But to make the short curly coat, all I did was place them along the body and just felt it in all the way down, and just do this across the entire sheet. I'm going to start working on the top coat by first starting with the legs and just getting them all nice and fluffy and nice and thick. I'm going to start with some of the black curls, so I'm going to cut a small section off, and then I'm going to very gently just open it out and separate the curls a little bit, just so it makes it all nice and fluffy. And then I'm going to felt this onto the hoof. So I'm going to place one end down towards the bottom of the hoof and felt straight across the centre. And then I'm going to flip the other end down so that one's also facing the bottom of the hoof. And again, just felt over the very top of those. And then just a few pokes so it's nice and secure, and then I'm going to do a single layer of this all the way around each hoof. So again, just going to cut a very small section of the black curls, open them out, and place it over the hoof. Felting straight across the middle, and then flipping it over and felting across the top. And it just makes it really nice and fluffy at the bottom of the hoof. So I'm going to continue doing this one and do the same for all 4. So next we're going to be adding some fluff all the way up the legs, and to do this I'm just going to look at the locks and then I pick out the best ones for the main curls, but then some of them can be all matted like this, and I'm going to use these locks and I'm just going to card them together to create the fur that's going to go all the way up the legs. So I have these, and these are just dog brushes, but I'm going to be using these to card the locks up. So I'm just going to place the locks on the brush and then brush them together just to loosen up the fibres. And then I'm going to pull it off and you'll see that they're all somewhat organised. So I'm just going to keep realigning them and then I trim this off and use this as the fur to go all the way up the legs. So I'm going to cut off a chunk of the locks, just like so, and I'm going to place this on the mat and felt directly across them. And then lift off, and I'm going to place this along the leg, and then I'm going to refelt over the line we've just created by felting them onto the mat. And then I'm going to flip the top section over and just felt that down as well. So just like we did with the black wool, I'm going to continue going all the way around the leg. So now I'm just going to take my scissors and just clean up some of the fibres that are overhanging a bit too much, just to neaten it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, I just want to make them a little bit shorter. And then now we're going to add another layer. So again, just cut off a chunk of the carded locks and felt them onto the mat. And I'm going to place them not directly on the top of the previous layer, but just up slightly, like so. And again, felt straight around the middle and fold over and felt the top. And again, I'm just going to do this all the way around. And again, I'm just going to go in with the scissors and just neaten it all up again. For the third layer, we're going to add a black patch over the knee. So I'm just going to use some of the same black curls as before. Just pop that down and felt straight over the middle. And again, like before, I'm just going to flip it over and felt across the top. So we want the black to cover the front half of the knee, and then the back of the knee is going to be made using the same white locks as earlier, and then the white locks are going to continue all the way up the leg. So there we go, black wool on the front and then the white locks on the back. So I'm just going to trim this again with the scissors, and then I'm going to continue placing the white fluff all the way up the rest of the leg. So when all the fluff has been added and trimmed down, you should have something that looks like this. A nice thick fluffy leg. So we're going to repeat the same again on the other front leg. So that's 2 layers of white, 1 layer of black at the front and white at the back. And then the rest of the leg is just filled in with the white. And there's 2 fluffy front legs. So the back legs are nice and easy, it's just white all the way up. The legs are all now nice and fluffy, and it's already looking so much better. I don't bother adding any of the fluff to the lambs, I just add the little black patch on the knee, but leave the rest of the legs as they are. It's now time to start adding locks all the way around the body. So as I mentioned before, I am going to be using Valais Blacknose locks, but you can use whatever you have available, or even just using your homemade curls, and these will work just as well, just stretching them out and felting them on. I like to do the first layer all around the bottom half of the body, a second layer around the top half of the body, and then a third layer to cover up the spine and any bits that are left over. So taking the first lock, I'm just going to place that and line it up where I want it to be, and I'm going to felt over just the top section, and I'm going to felt it in really well. And then when that's felted all nice and secure, I'm just going to add a couple of extra felts in between the gaps where it curves in, just to keep it all in place. But I don't want to add too many felts to the actual lock as it can ruin the structure. But just adding those extra few and making sure it's nice and secure at the top is going to be enough just to keep it in place and keep it nice and secure on the sheep. So I'm now going to continue adding these locks all the way around the bottom half of the sheep. the first layer of locks has been added all around the sheep. So we're going to start adding the second layer, and I'm going to place these locks just slightly higher than the ones we've just placed. So these are more up towards the top of the sheep. And just like we did with the first layer, I'm going to felt down the top really well. Just make sure it's all nice and secure. And then a couple of extra felts just in the dips. And I'm going to continue this again all the way around the sheep. I'm just going to flip him over and add the top layer of locks. So I'm going to start at the bottom towards the back end, and I'm going to layer them up towards the head. And I'm also going to add some locks to the top and the bottom of the tail. So I'm just going to place over the first lock and felt that in nice and secure. And I'm going to go in and add the second lock, and again just felt it all nice and secure, and keep going all the way up the back until you reach the neck. So the body's all nice and curly and fluffy. So next we're going to be working on the head, but before I work on the head, what I like to do is just take some cling film, and I'm just going to wrap this all the way around the body, and it just keeps all the curls nice and secure and keeps them all neat and together while we work on the head. This part is of course completely optional. You do not have to wrap your sheep up, that is entirely up to you. As I said, I just prefer to do so because it really helps to keep everything together. So now we're going to be working on the head. So now we're going to be adding some curls to the face, and to do this I will be using some of the homemade curls. So I'm just going to trim off a small piece. Gently open it out just to loosen up the curls and make it all nice and fluffy, and this will be getting felted onto the face. This may be a little difficult to see because of course we'll be working with dark wool on dark wool, but I've zoomed in and turned up the brightness of my lamp as high as it'll go, so hopefully you guys will be able to somewhat see what I'm doing, or at least have a rough idea. So I'm just going to take the black curls, and I'm going to place one end at the front of the eye towards the nose, and I'm going to curve it around towards the back of the eye, and I'm just going to felt this down around the eye. We're going to continue adding curls around the whole face. Don't worry about the back of the head because this is all going to be covered in the white locks. But the black curls we want to come just behind the eye and up towards the nose, but not covering the nose. So I'm just going to take another nice spread out black curl, and I'm going to place it underneath the eye, again towards the nose, and felt down. And felt it all around towards the back of the eye. And I'm going to continue adding these around the entire face. So he's now got a really nice fluffy face. I've also removed the cling film that was on his body because we're now mainly going to be working on the top of the head, so we don't need to be moving him around as much, so it's not really needed anymore. But next we're going to be making the ears. I'm going to take a chunk of black merino and I'm going to felt it across the centre. And now I'm going to felt a triangular shape, so I'm going to start out away from the centre line and then felt in towards the centre line. So start away and felt down towards the centre. And again for the other side, start away and felt in towards the centre. Fold over the edges and just felt them in as well. So now I'm just going to keep felting and then I'm going to flip it over and felt on the other side and just keep flipping and felting until it's nice and firm and sturdy. So this is a rough shape, but now I'm just going to keep felting because as you can see it's quite loose. So I want to keep going until it's nice and flat and nice and firm. So now that is nice and well felted, we're going to smoothen out the edges, and to do this I just take a piece of cardboard and fold it in half, and the edge that I'm going to be working on is going to go up towards the top of the cardboard, so I'm just going to place it in between and sandwich it like so, and then I'm going to take a needle and just very gently felt in the edges. Just keep going until it's nice and smooth, and then repeat the same on the other side. And then this is going to be our ear. So we just fold it in half and then this will get felted onto the head of the sheep. So we need to make 2 of these. So we've now got 2 triangles ready to create the ears. All we need to do now is just felt straight down the centre line of the triangles. And as we're felting, this is just going to bring them together and sort of fold them in half, and this will be the finished ear ready to go onto the sheep. So just felt straight down the centre and just allow the triangle to lift up at the edges. And again for the second one. And now these are ready to attach to the sheep, but we're going to put these to one side while we make the horns. So for the horns I'm going to be using some 0.6mm wire, and I've just cut this down. I typically cut it to a length of 14 to 15 centimetres, but you can cut it and adjust it to your preferences. So I'm going to start by folding it in half just to find the centre, and then I'm going to open this out into a V. I'm going to place the point of the V over my finger, and I'm going to fold the wires back over the finger. So 1 and 2, just like so. And this point here is going to get placed on top of the sheep's head. So next I'm going to place the wire over my little finger, my pinky finger, and I'm very carefully just going to wrap that around, just nice and loosely, and then pull off, and repeat the same again on the other finger. Just nice and loosely wrap it around, and this creates the basic shape for the horns. So from this point you can continue to twist and adjust the wire until you find a shape that is suitable for your preferences. So now I'm going to be using some light brown merino and some Mod Podge, and I'm going to begin wrapping the horns. I'm going to start by placing some Mod Podge on the wire. I'm just going to do this in small sections and just keep adding more as I go along. And then I'm going to take the brown wool and just very carefully start wrapping all the way around. And when you get to the end of the Mod Podge, just simply add some more and just keep going until the entire wire is covered. And when I reach the very end, I'm just going to add a little bit of Mod Podge on top of the wool and just squeeze that in just to keep it nice and secure, and then start wrapping back up towards the centre. I'm now going to add a second layer of wool just to really thicken them up. This time, when I'm working my way back, similar to how we bulked up the legs, I'm going to jump from this part of the wire over to the next part and back again. So I'm going to jump from here over the next part of the wire and then cross over and jump back again to the first wire. And I'm going to jump back again to the second wire and just continue wrapping around. I'm going to go back in with a third layer of wool, but this time when I reach just before the curve, I'm going to jump from the first wire to the second and just keep going back and forth until it's nice and thickened up in this area. And then if there's any wool remaining, I'm just going to continue wrapping back up towards the centre point. So just begin wrapping and jump to the second wire, wrap around and back to the first wire, back to the second wire and again to the first wire, then continue wrapping up to the centre point. So this has now been nice and thickened and it's got a better shape. So now I'm just going to felt this in and just continue shaping it and making sure it's really nice and secure, and then I will move on to the next side. So once the horns have been felted and you've completed both sides, you should have something that looks similar to this. So the next step is just simply going to be putting the horns and the ears on the sheep. So where the point is, in the centre of the horns, is going to go towards the tip of the nose, and I'm just going to place them over the back of the head, like so. I'm just going to give it a couple of felts just to keep it in place. Then I'm going to use a little bit of black wool just to cover it up here. So I'm just going to take a really small section of black wool. I'm going to felt it on the mat first to just kind of create a little sheet that is going to get placed over the horns. So I'm just going to place this over, and of course just felt this on as well. Just make sure that this is really well felted, and then it will keep everything in place. So they are on nice and secure. So all I'm going to do now is just gently hold the top of the horns, and I'm just going to move them back ever so slightly, just fold them back. Same on this side, hold the top and just very gently fold it back, and it's just going to create a space so that we can add the ears. So I'm going to take one of the ears and I'm just going to pull off the very end so it's all nice and wispy, which will give it a smoother felt, and then I'm just going to slide it between the horn and the face, make sure I'm happy with the placement, and then just felt it on. And repeat the same again on the second side. Isn't he looking just adorable? So the next step, we're going to start adding some more locks on top of and the back of the head. So I'm going to start off by adding locks down either side of the face, coming just in front of the ears. So I'm just going to place them over and felt them on. And same on the other side. Then just continue adding locks all over the back of the head and the top of the head. And with the rest of the locks felted on, that is our sheep completed. They're just so adorable and so fun to make, so this guy is now off to join the rest of his flock. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you all again in the next one.